Yeah, we're going live. Let's just let this do its thing. Just going to mute you briefly so it doesn't. So let's go back here. Actually, where was the there we go. Okay, so we're talking about the map of consciousness. Yeah. So what he did was he did some kinesiology. If you know what kinesiology means.
Yeah, it's the study of movement.
Muscle testing process.
Yeah, that's what I studied actually. Study of movement.
You test. You do things like swaying. But Pity Sally's not here because she does a lot of it. Like you sway, or you have a way of testing in the physical body what something feels like, and you determine whether it's positive or negative. And then you can calibrate it on the scale by saying, well, is that 300? And then you do your muscle test, and if it's positive, then it's 300, and you go 310, and so on. It's just indicative. I mean, the numbers, you just put numbers to it to give us some idea that, okay, this is, one is higher than another, and that you're going up a scale. It's another developmental model of consciousness, and there's many, but you go from, a lower state to a higher state. And so your question was about the process,
I was asking about the emotion scorn, what it means, but
what was your question?
What does scorn means? The emotion scorn word.
Scorn, yeah, emotion, yeah. So scorn is like, I'm superior to you, and you're kind of worthless, you're useless. Everyone else is, I'm the big cheese, and you're unworthy, you're way below me, and I scorn you. I look with that kind of contempt, scorn, and I have the right to judge. It's self-righteous pride and arrogance, judging. And so someone like Putin would probably have quite a lot of that in his energy. You're like, oh, these, he wouldn't acknowledge a normal kind of just his normal citizens. He wouldn't think they're worth anything. He'd be like, you're just like useful tools, useful pawns in my power game. I scorn you as weak, powerless citizens, or they're all asleep, and he thinks he's better than everyone. So he's not a servant leader. He's serving the ego.
Yeah.
It's it will come back on him. There's no doubt. You can't do what you're doing without activating spiritual. Every single tyrant and every single tyrannical system in history has fallen. So it's inevitable. It's going to fall. It's not sustainable energy. That's what David Hawkins is saying. It's a destructive energy. Anything below the level of 200 is destructive. It's life destructive. It's the death wish of the ego in a different form. So it may seem to be, great. Look at the Nazis. I mean, there was all this pride and pomposity, and they're dressing up in smart uniforms and arming themselves and going, oh, wow, we're so amazing and so powerful, and now we're going to go conquer people. And people were sucked in by it. They thought this is power, but actually it was force, and it was self-destructive. So in the end, Germany got beaten again, and there was a lot of humiliation, and they had to all of the look at the destruction on the physical level that it caused. Massive loss of life, destruction of whole cities. Just for what reason? For pride and arrogance. Just insanity. I mean, the 20th century was probably the most insane century ever in human history. I mean, recorded history, just bonkers. 2 world wars, just so. And then there was, in between, there was, Stalin's madness in Russia, and just like, it was just crazy. It was like the ego on insanity. showing us, I guess, what the destructive effects of it are. And then post that, I mean, 1960s, 70s, there was this kind of awakening. And so that was in response to all the insanity. The light must come in and show people another way.
I'm surprised it doesn't show the fear as an emotion, but it shows other emotions.
Yeah, fear as a level.
Oh, okay. They put fear as a level.
Fear as a level, and then the emotion is fear or anxiety.
Yeah.
The emotion with fear is I have this anxiety, and Sue was talking about it, like this deep-seated anxiety coming up, and for no particular reason. It's not rational. But it arises because we fear for our life, our safety. We don't know what's going to happen, and we disconnected from source. We're not in this. We're in a lower state, and the ego likes to keep us there because there's no certainty here. There's just, what am I going to do? I'm fearful, and fearful people can be controlled and manipulated. The tyrants know that. So you make people fearful, and then you can control and manipulate them. But it's all a false promise. It's not true. So, one of the reasons someone said, why don't we get taught this at school? Because if you got taught all this at school, you would awaken from all of this, and you wouldn't be controllable. You wouldn't be able to be manipulated and controlled as easily. And the education system's designed to create very, passive, willing, slave, not just get your job, and you're going to pay your taxes, and you're going to do your thing, and you're not going to go and try and awaken people and change the system. We don't want people to do that. They don't want neos in the world. They want ciphers, who's just like happy to play the game and say, I accept this, I choose the matrix, and I'll try and make the best of it. Yeah, so we might as well finish this. Any other questions on this, on the scale?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, it's funny. I don't understand why understanding is an emotion.
Where you said understanding? Yeah. Emotion is understanding. Is that really an emotion?
No, I wouldn't put it as an emotion.
Feeling, no, but maybe this is at a loss for words. You're talking about reasons. There's not much emotion in reason. Emotion might be clarity, like a lack of emotion. I'm just able to be detached. I'm able to be somewhat dispassionate. Maybe that's so it's just remember, this is all indicative. This is an absolute truth. Anything that's got levels is not the absolute truth. It's a model in the matrix. It's another developmental model showing us a way out. You think of these levels as steps. You can climb the ladder, climb up the steps from one to another. And it's quite useful if you're at fear, and that's your dominant emotion, anxiety, then your next step out of that might be, okay, well, desire is at least an upgrade. So often what people do in the personal growth world, there'll be at these lower levels, a lot of fear, maybe some grief, depression, apathy, and then they get onto a personal growth track and they say, what the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. So you can desire something, you can make it happen. So then it's an upgrade. You've gone still negative, but at least you're moving up the scale. So then you start doing the desire thing. You start trying to manifest stuff, and maybe that works a bit. And you go, oh wow, actually that did work. And so you start to learn that your mind has some power. And if you carried on up that track on the ego's path, you would then find anger coming up, and you might go into pride. Oh, now I'm the big cheese. I've manifested a whole lot. I'm better than other people. And that may lead you to courage and a breakthrough. So it can be useful to know where you're at and say, okay, so what's the next level up from a developmental point of view? And also just, from our point of view, these are now temporary states. I don't think there's anyone on this course who's at a level of fear consistently, because they wouldn't be on the course.
It keeps changing. Yeah,
but you can drop down. Then you can go, oh, okay, anxiety is arising, and now and so this can be a tool like the canary in the gold mine to say, oh, okay, just remember, okay, I'm feeling anxiety. Go check the map. Okay, that's level 100. Oh, okay, no, that's I know where I am. I'm in negative, and the only way is down. Grief, apathy, guilt. That's below. So the only way is up. You need to let go of the fear, start finding faith, start having courage, trust, and that upgrades you.
Yeah, because I'm doing forgiveness, so I'm in the forgiveness.
Yeah.
The forgiveness right now.
You can actually shift it. You don't have to go a level at a time. You can bounce from fear. You can do forgiveness, let's say, through the theta meditation, and you can find a state that's accepting, that's quite transcendent. Some harmony, higher level reason. We're talking about abstract reasoning here with the metaphysics. You can start understanding that. So you can go up and down the scale in a day. You could have some anxiety, and that could be a temporary experience for a few minutes or maybe longer. And then you let go of that, and you could go back up into a state of forgiveness, and then you could drop down into a bit of anger, and then you could bounce back up to love. It's all, especially if you're doing this work, you probably find that you do vacillate. And the scale could be useful, just going, okay, well, remember, like, you've got the levels in mind. This is a tool for awareness. Okay, where am I? Okay, no, negative. All right.
When you meditate, you're in a peace, level of peace.
Yeah. So if you go into a deep, peaceful state in meditation, you can access this. You might not stay there the whole day. But what he's saying to you is, you can gravitate towards a general level. Like if you're generally at peace, that's kind of your default level. That's quite a high state. Not many people attain that. You're generally at peace. Like the ego doesn't have much hold in your mind. The peace is your general level, and then you might
get triggered. You get triggered by the family.
Yeah,
you go back down.
But if you're established at peace, then you wouldn't be triggered. See, your peace is undisturbable. But in practice, you have a peaceful, blissful meditation, and then you come out and you have an argument with your mom in the kitchen. And then, now I'm back down into pride. Maybe I'm feeling like self-righteous or anger. And just notice that. Go, okay, well, you just dropped way down. You're back there. It doesn't feel good. So pick yourself up again, or let it go. You want to be in these states.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's another tool for self-awareness. Okay, well, just have a look at the scale of consciousness. You can print it out and go, okay, that's useful. See where I am. All right. And the way out of the negative is to let go. Letting go raises you up out of that level. Once you've let go of those thoughts and emotions, you go up in the scale. You have to into the higher levels. So this is it's showing a developmental path out of a deep ego state, totally identified with guilt. The ego would be, you totally feel guilty and shameful to even be alive. And there's no process there's no state lower than that, because below that you don't exist. You can't exist for very long at a shameful, despising energy. Because basically you're saying I don't deserve to live. Very, very soon, the mind will then kill the body because you don't deserve to live. The death wish is overwhelming. And the process is elimination. You just want to die. So it's, from that very base level of ego, upgrading through the levels, guilt and apathy, just condemning, grief, very much associated with past loss, scarcity, fearing that's going to happen in the future, desire, that's craving, I'm enslaved, I'm addicted, anger, hate, aggression, pride. So these are all the things Yeshua's teaching us about. He's saying, these are the ego's tools.
But it doesn't say you're depressed, because if you're at the lowest level, you're certainly depressed at that level, depression.
Well, that would probably be apathy. Apathy would be depression.
Oh, really?
Despair. The emotion of someone in depression is despair. There's no hope or hopeless. So of abdication. I give up. All right, whatever. I'm just kind of existing. There's no hope. There's no life. And there are people who get stuck at these levels for years. Sadly, they can't seem to escape. The answer is letting go. This letting go would help them if they're willing to do it. You have to confront your ego and say, no, this is nonsense. This is what it's telling me is a pack of lies. Life is not condemning and hopeless and apathetic. That's just an illusion. Actually, I have, love within me. There's love, there's peace, there's joy, there's happiness. I can experience this. I'm open to these higher states. And then as you go through, the levels, courage becomes the transition state, isn't it? 200. You have to have the courage to face your ego in order to undo it. So the beginning of the transformation is courage.
Mm-hmm.
If you recall in the Matrix, Neo has to have courage to take the pill. He has to have courage to get in the car and follow Trinity, and courage just to go and meet her in the first place. It requires a willingness to okay, I'm going into the unknown here, and it could be a bit scary. So the courage to face your ego is the beginning of the transformation. So I want to change, and I'm willing to face whatever because I want to change. Without courage, you can't go higher. And then that takes you into neutrality. So that's more sort of a neutral, just finding that, Vipassana type detachment. Okay, I can just observe. I'm neutral. There's a process of releasing, there's trusting, willingness, very optimistic. Yeah, I'm hopeful, I'm inspired. I know things can work. So if you want to create anything in this world, really being at a state of willingness would be a minimum requirement. So a lot of the great entrepreneurs, like take a Richard Branson or like that, a lot of willingness, optimism, positive energy, and then beyond that, forgiveness. Now you're going beyond needing to be willing on the level of form. You're going into a letting go. Okay, I'm just gonna. If I look at my own path, it was very much this. Was letting go of this. There was a lot of courage. I had to do things that were not the norm. I didn't follow the normal path. Didn't finish I finished my degree, but I didn't go and become an accountant and get a job and do all those things. So I was kind of on my own. It was like out on the fringes of society. It takes courage. You're like, what am I doing here? I'm taking risks, and people who are fear dominated won't. For them, that's very scary. Like, how can you do that? That's too risky. You've got to play it safe. And
it was the same that we discussed the other day with the vaccine. Actually, it's the same kind of feeling.
Same mindset.
Mindset.
So the people who didn't take the vaccine normally are on some kind of spiritual path. They're awakening out of this. That's what I saw. And the people who are not on a genuine spiritual path, dominated by fear, took it because their fear would dominate them and tell them to take it.
So I would say people who didn't get the vaccine could be at the understanding level, like understanding that it's an understanding actually, or reason. Reason.
Yeah, being able to high level reason is able to look beyond the illusion and say, okay, well, does this make any sense? The authorities are saying we should take this, but there doesn't seem to be any evidence that this actually works, that it's effective. And does it even make sense? Is there even a virus? You start questioning, don't you?
Yeah.
Saying, like, actually, what is true? Was what they're telling me the truth? Can I absolutely know that's true, as Byron Katie would say? You know, the work, if you're familiar with Byron Katie.
No,
A few questions, you know, they're very useful questions to start the process. Four questions, the process. It says, can you know that this is true? So you've got something going on. Can you know that that's true? Well, so I'm feeling like fearful because of the virus. Can you absolutely, and then she says, second question, can you absolutely know that it's true? It's the same question, but can you absolutely know that this is true? And if you're honest, you can't absolutely know that anything in the world of perception is true, right? It's because it's perceptual. It's your opinion. It's other people's opinions. It's all opinions. It's not facts.
Yeah.
So when people say things like, "Oh, we know for a fact that the vaccine works. We know for a fact that masks work," you got to question that and go, "No, you don't know for a fact at all. That's opinion. It's not a fact." But you see what happens when you open your mind and you start going on a spiritual path. You have this ability to reason and to understand and to question.
Yeah, the mask for me, when I first heard that there was going to be masks to be put up on our faces, I was like, oh, for me, it was telling me they just want us to shut up and not talk. They don't want us to express ourselves anymore, or they don't want to hear the truth. That's what came to me first. Like, they don't want us to speak the truth. So they're gonna give us some mask to put on.
Like a muzzle,
a muzzle. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Let's put a muzzle. Yeah, that's exactly.
Put a muzzle, and it's a sign of compliance. The reason why they would, I mean, the masks had I don't think they had any effect at all. There's no evidence that they're effective. But the reason
control.
They did
it's control. I mean, it's
it was a sign of compliance. If you wore your mask, then you were under control, and they wanted everyone to know. It was a little test run of, I think, more to come to see, like, okay, how much, how much will people
take on?
And most people did. They just wore them because of the fear. But if you question it, then you're not fearful anymore. You go, well, no, actually, maybe none of this is true.
Yeah, it was interesting how this video of people speaking their truth actually were being censored or removed or deleted from the social media. Actually, a lot of videos were being censored or deleted from.
Just
owners,
you're not saying anything radical. You're just saying, I don't believe this. Well, okay, well, what about free speech then? I mean, YouTube, classic. They just remove videos. Like how can you? You can't do that. But that's their platform, so I guess they can. They own it. It's not. Don't say that it's free speech then, because it's not. It's censorship, which is always of the ego. The ego is always hiding, isn't it? It's trying to hide and suppress, and it's a sign of a tyrannical thought system. It's hiding the darkness. It doesn't want the darkness to be exposed, so we suppress it.
It shows the level of consciousness, which, since it's the map of consciousness, it shows the level of consciousness that these people operate in.
So it's quite a useful tool, this, because you can go, okay, so what are they doing? What's the emotion? What's the process? What's their God view? What's their life view? Okay, well, that's where they calibrate. That's where they are. And then you can have empathy. You can say, okay, well, they're enslaved, right? And anyone below level 200 is enslaved. They're not awakening, and it's a very dark reality. So they actually need empathy. Even the tyrants, like the Putins and so on of the world, they're enslaved as well. They think they're free, but they're not. They're being puppets of the ego.
Well, he probably has been brainwashed as well from his ancestors or previous tyrants. He's on tyrants, petty tyrants.
He's a puppet of the ego, and there will be powers greater than him that are manipulating him as well. So he's not actually the biggest chief. So it's a very dark world, that world, and there's no freedom. So just be grateful you're not a Putin or something. I mean, like, oh, what karma to deal with? Jeez, he's got some lessons to learn, and if not in this life, in another life, she's accumulating karma. If you're on this path of awakening, be very grateful, because you're on the home stretch. It's like, okay, you almost done with this insane dream, and you're heading towards love, joy, bliss, serenity, ultimate enlightenment. And we talked yesterday were you in the evening session about the revelation? Did you do the evening session? I can't remember.
I did some of them.
yesterday. We did the evening session on revelation, time and miracles. We talked about revelation. So revelation is the state, ineffable bliss, pure consciousness, enlightenment, what is. It's the what is, and you're aware of the what is, and it's indescribable. He said it's a revelation is unspeakable because it's literally, you can't put it into words because it's an unspeakable experience. Where ineffable means unspeakable, indescribable. So that's what's lying ahead of you. Okay, well, I think I can handle indescribable bliss. That's okay. That's not so terrifying, is it? But somehow we're scared of it. Why are we scared of being in bliss and just being, perfectly peaceful and happy for eternity? What's the resistance?
It's a good question.
Doesn't really make sense to resist that, but
no.
The resistance is your separate self.
No.
You have a separate self that wants to continue existing in these lower states. So useful tool. It's an alarm bell, can tell you where you are. You can reference to it. You can say, okay, that's where I am. You look at someone else, you can go, okay, so that's temporary. It's not their true reality, but that's where the ego thinks they are. And so it could help you to understand. There's a part of compassion is understanding. Okay, I understand you're at that level, so you're doing the best that you can at that level. Putin is doing the best that he can at his level of consciousness. Mm-hmm. That's because that's always what people are doing. At that level of pride, he's doing the best he can, which would mean, if you have pride, this is what you do. You go and you puff yourself up, and if you're a head of a country, you try and invade other countries, and you big yourself up because that's the best he can do in his current level of consciousness. And then you see you're releasing judgment. You say, look, it's not absolutely true or correct, but you understand why someone is behaving the way they do because they're in that level, and the ego is powerful in their mind, and it's governing them. They're a puppet of it. And so they then just run the program. They're a program puppet running the program of pride or anger or whatever it is. And so they're doing the best they can with that programming.
Mm-hmm.
And could I be helpful to them in freeing them from that programming? That's really the question. So speaking of programming, let's dive into the 12 pathways, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at pathway number 1 yesterday, which is, just to recap, if you want to read that. I'm freeing myself
from security, sensation, and power addictions that make me try to forcefully control situations in my life and thus destroy my serenity and keep me from loving myself and others.
Yeah, so that was number 1, freeing yourself, becoming aware of these addictions. And addictions are expectations. The expectation that something should turn out a certain way to make me safe, that's your security, to give me pleasure, sensation, to make me more powerful, to boost my fragile self-esteem. So now I try and forcefully control situations in my life to meet these addictions, to meet these expectations. And that's then ego power games, playing manipulative control games with other people to meet your apparent needs. Very self-seeking, and it's not a nice energy. If you've been around people like that, it feels very very unpleasant. Thus destroy my serenity, keep me from loving myself and others. So you have no serenity, no peace, because you're always expecting.
Every day I'm
expectation
surrounded.
Means that you're never at peace. You always you need something more to be at peace. And then the more expectant you are, the more likely you are to have a grievance because your expectation isn't met. See that? So you drop down the scale.
Mm-hmm.
You have your expectation, that's desire, and then it's not met, and then you drop down into the fear that it won't be met. I have a huge expectation, but I immediately have fear that it won't be met. And if it's not met, then I have grievance, and then I'm in the even lower levels. Grief is a grief. Oh, why didn't they happen? I feel a sense of loss. I'm hardly done by. So it sets you up for a fall. So he's saying, well, we've got to start there. Start upgrading yourself by becoming aware of your addictions, your expectations, and letting them go. So that's pathway 1, and freeing yourself. Second pathway, discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions create my illusory version of the changing world of people and situations around me. Okay, so do you want to read that? Well, let's ask Christine. Christine, can you read for us? You're just listening in. Okay, so we'll just. So if you can read that, Aurelie. I'm discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions.
I'm discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions create my illusory version of the changing world of people and situations around me.
Okay.
Yeah. We see
That's
things.
what we're doing. We're discovering now this process of partial letting go. It's discovering how these consciousness dominating addictions create your world. They create your illusory version of this changing world, people and situations around me. And that's all.
No, sorry, it was, I don't know what happened. Your voice got lost. I don't know if it's the internet.
You said my internet connection's unstable. Going on my conscious dominating. So these addictions to your ego create an illusory version of a world that seems to be changing and shifting and be fearful and scary. But it's all perceptual. It's a perceptual reality. That's that you put yourself in through your thoughts and your perceptions. So part of this journey of awakening is discovering how this is creating your illusory version of the changing world. So you're starting to see, it's not absolutely real. It's my own miscreation.
Yeah.
And then it continues. So we want to carry on. We see things not as they are.
We see things not as they are, but as we are.
Okay.
Every addiction distorts your effective processing of the enormous flow of information that is continually flooding in through all your sensory inputs on both conscious and unconscious levels. Your programmed addictions determine your experience of the world, for they are the guides that your reticular activating system, or your ego, uses to determine which data will be suppressed and which can go into your consciousness and command full attention.
Okay, so let's unpack that. See things not as they are, but as we are. Okay.
Yeah, so we perceive those things. Yeah, we perceive everything.
Perceive, because perception. Perception is a mirror, not a fact. So we're seeing our self-concept projected out. That's what's happening. So let's have a look at that quickly. Our self-concept projected out is our perception. So it's coming from our desire to be a separate self. Then we have belief, we have thought, we have emotion, we have perception. He's saying we see things not as they are, but we see things as we are, because it's our belief that is informing our perception. See that? Our belief is informing our perception.
Yeah, because that makes sense, because like I told you, when I wake up receiving these insights and say, oh, you must let go of these beliefs. Okay, so I start releasing that belief or letting go of that belief and doing like a release prayer or whatever. I need to do better, follow the guidance. But that's exactly what I've been doing, like undoing these beliefs that came probably from first. It's or prayer, so desire or prayer. So it's like, yeah, I guess it's the Holy Spirit telling me, let go of that belief. And that belief,
Yeah.
and that belief.
And you let go of the desire to be a separate self. You see?
Yes.
So your self-concept,
yeah.
Your self-concept, who you think you are, is behind your perceptions. That's what Yeshua's saying. Who you think you are informs your belief, your thought, your emotion, and your perception.
Mm.
And that is how perception works. You're not the external environment is not the cause of your perception. The cause is your mind. You're actually projecting it on one level and perceiving it on another. But you're always perceiving from your belief system. You interpret everything. Perception is interpretive. You interpret everything based on your belief system.
Yeah.
So we don't see things as they really are.
What did you say? You interpret?
You interpret things based on your belief system.
Yes, absolutely.
And perception is interpretive. It's not fact. It's interpretation. So you're interpreting things and you're judging them as real. You say, oh, well, that's reality. But actually it's not. It's just how I interpret it. Based on a belief. If that belief's false, then the perception must be false.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And that's what this process is all about. Exposing that, saying, okay, yeah, this is all false. I'm seeing the falsity of it. And then I can let it go. Once I recognize falsity, then I can choose again and I can let it go. So we see things not as they are, but as we are, from our belief system. And every addiction distorts your effective processing of the enormous flow of information that's continually flooding through all your sensory inputs on both conscious and unconscious levels. Okay, so you've got all this sensory information, it's data. If you're in computer analogy, it's like you've got all the sensors, those are the interfaces with the seeming external world. The data comes in, sights, sounds, smells, taste, touch, it's all coming in, being processed. But what's processing it? What's interpreting it? The processing is the interpretation, isn't it?
The processing.
Yeah. What's processing all that data?
Your mind.
Yeah. There's a program that's processing. You know, it's like to use computer language, which is
everything you do is being processed. Yeah, everything is being processed.
So there's a program. There's an operating system that's processing. So we have computer, speak. We have an operating system that runs our computers, Windows in most cases.
Yeah.
And that's like the default operating system of the computer, right? Everything runs on Windows. Without Windows, without the default operating system, we couldn't be having this conversation. None of the apps would work and so on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ego is like that. It's a default operating system of our life, but we're not aware of it. We're not aware that actually the way I'm interpreting the world is because of that default operating system. We think that's just reality. And we don't question that operating system and bring it into conscious awareness and say, oh, actually, what is that operating system? How's that actually working? Is that true? Is that operating system actually true? Maybe it's a false operating system, which means then, if it's false operating system, everything I'm perceiving must be false. You see that? Because it's being perceived within the operating system. And that's another view of this. That's what we're doing here, exposing the falsity of the operating system of the ego and all of its programmed addictions that are now running on that false operating system, which determine your experience of the world. So I have addiction and expectation. I need things to work well. Everything must be perfect. And then, today everything's not. My appliances are broken. My car's broken down. Something goes wrong. And then I get upset because my programmed addiction that everything in the level of form should work reality is not matching that.
Can I say something?
Yeah, with pleasure.
If you read a little bit further down, there's the reticular activating system.
Yeah.
Which your ego uses to determine which data to be suppressed and which can go into your consciousness. That's actually a part of the brain. There's a reticular activating system which acts like filters. So this whole addiction thing and our belief systems that we get programmed is all part of that brain function.
Well, the brain is the the hardware, but the mind is the software. That's the analogy. The mind is the software that actually runs that is the program, and then the brain. They do brain testing and they go, well, there's we have got a reticular activating system, but it's the mind that's now operating through the brain, the hardware of the brain. So in the end, it comes down to changing your mind. Change your thoughts, change your beliefs, and you rewire the system. You can rewire the brain because it's neural pathways. It's flexible. It changes according to your thoughts. So we are not the products of the brain. The modern scientists say, well, scientific materialism. They're saying, well, actually, your consciousness is a result of brain function. In other words, you are aware and you're conscious because you have a brain. So it's focused on the right-hand quadrant here. In the extreme of that, the exterior objective view of the world is you're a brain, and your brain gives you consciousness. And when your brain dies, then you die. But that's clearly not the case. Evidence shows that's absolutely not the case. People have out-of-body experiences, astral travel, near-death experiences, where the brain dies. They've actually measured this. The brain's gone, the person's dead, no brain activity, and yet the person has a whole experience, the near-death. So where were they then? They weren't in their brain. So the brain and the mind are not the same. The brain's the hardware through which the mind operates temporarily through the vehicle of the body. But it's not the source of consciousness. That's a delusion. It's the effect of the mind going out of its mind, putting itself into a body, and now it needs to operate through a vehicle, and it needs the hardware to do that. So then the brain is part of that hardware. But the source of consciousness is internal. Source is in the mind. Ultimate source is beyond. Way beyond the brain. So, but that's the scientific materialist paradigm that has made this somehow source and denied this. I mean, it's ridiculous. So then, where does the brain come from? Then they can't answer that. If the brain's the source of consciousness, where does the brain come from? Oh, well, the brain's just a product of atoms and molecules, and developed through a process of evolution. Okay, but so what then was behind the process of evolution? Must have been some intelligence, some mind. But they can't really answer, if you're a scientific materialist, you can't really answer these questions. So scientists get very uncomfortable about the idea of consciousness. You say, well, what's consciousness then? Where does that come from? Can't really answer that because it comes from outside of their thought system. It's beyond what their thought system can handle.
Because they only think with an analytic or scientific mind. It's all like about.
Well, it's external, isn't it? It's just the objective. What they're saying is the objective is the only reality. If you can see it, feel it, touch it, taste it, measure it, that's real. That's scientific reality. But even that's subjective.
That's exterior.
It's exterior, but your perception of the objective world is not objective. It's not objective because there's always a subject, an I, that's perceiving. So you can never be separate from what you're perceiving. The I is always involved in perception. There's no objective reality. As quantum physics says, there's no reality in the absence of observation. So the I that's observing and the subject that it's observing, the seemingly objective thing out there, are both essential parts of perception. Without the I, the subjective sense of self observing, there's no perception. Then, therefore, no reality. There's no reality in the absence of observation. it's a mind, it's a spiritual truth that they've hit on. And they've shown that through scientific experiments, that the intention of the observer influences the outcome of the experiment. And it happens over and over and over again. So saying there is no objectivity, absolute objectivity. The mind is always involved. The perceiver is always involved in reality, which is exactly what Yeshua is teaching us. These teachings, spiritual teachings, say this is an interactive reality. Your subject sense of self, your self-concept, influences your seemingly objective perception. You can't get away from it. Perception is not objective.
So you're saying that all of this exists together, all of this thing.
Yeah, the integral model is saying it's all happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
These quadrants of, we're talking, remember, within the construct of the illusion. This is a model of illusion, not of truth, because there are no models in truth. But within this is a model of how this so-called reality. You have observe on the one axis, interior, exterior on the other, and where they intersect, you have these quadrants of so-called reality. So the I is the subjective interior state of mind, my thoughts, emotions, memories, states of mind, perceptions, immediate sensations. Right? So perception, it's putting perception here, isn't it? It's what you perceive. It's an interpretation of what you see outside there. It's internal, but it interacts with the seemingly objective. So the I now interacts with the external, the seemingly objective, and based on the sense perceptions, the sensory input that's coming in, it'll have perceptions. It'll perceive it in a certain way, interpret it in a certain way. But that is a subjective experience, as it says here. Perceptions are subjective. And all of this stuff, the material body, the brain, anything that you can see or touch, observe scientifically in time and space, that's just a projection of the mind. It's just teaching us. That's a projection of the mind on a deeper level. So we're not aware that it's a projection, but it is, which feeds back to us what we've projected out. So it's showing us that whatever we believed here is true, and then we perceive it to be true from that same belief system that projected it, and we get a closed loop reality. It confirms itself, doesn't it? So projection and perception make up the so-called reality that we're in, but it's an illusion because it's based on a false idea that's projected out and then perceived as real and repeatedly confirmed. Which is what this teaching is saying to us in the second pathway. So do you have any questions on the integral model? Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Useful model to understand reality. So a guy called Ken Wilber came up with it, and he's probably the greatest living philosopher. Read, hugely well read in all different fields. He's gone into spirituality, religion, philosophy, ethics. And in the early 90s, he decided he needed to come up with a model that would capture it all, that would encapsulate it. It was a model of models that would describe all of it. Everything could be fitted into it. And he came up with the integral model, which is pretty inspired, I'd say. And it's so simple. So, okay, so this is actually how it works. And then there's levels, there's lines, there's levels, there's states. It's a comprehensive model of this reality that is mapped out. And then it says, look, if you look at the world from the perspective of this model, it gives you some clarity. You get some insight, you get some understanding. If you just look at it from one quadrant or from one side, let's say you just focus on the exterior and you say this is all reality is, you're blind, it's flatland, you're not seeing half of reality. So you can't make correct decisions. Your perceptions are not going to be accurate because you're not integral, you're not seeing it correctly.
Okay, I have a great example because this keeps reflecting. This morning I had a little visitor, I had a spider, and I know that the spider represents the web of life, which is exactly this quadrant, this web of life. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I was talking to it. I know you. I know I'm one with you. Talking to the spider. I'm one with you. I'm not gonna kill you, so don't be fearful. You can come. I was putting it on a scuba, and I brought it outside. And I brought it outside. She came on that little scuba, and I brought it outside. And I was like, this is an example of being one with the spider, and this is reflecting to me the meaning of the spider being reflected in my perception, or showing up in my.
Yeah, and then you have a web, then this is how synchronicity works. Now, oh, you see the spider's web, and then you go, oh, actually, it's life's revealing something to me, to this.
Yeah.
Through my dream. And
my dream, yes.
Yeah, through my dream. There's spiders in my bathroom.
Yeah, it's good to be aware of these creatures that are just mirroring us as well.
Well, it's a dream, yeah. So everything in the dream,
it's part of us.
Perceived from your self-concept. So you choose to see the spider as one with you, and with love, and then you're saying, I'm loving awareness.
Yes.
You're identifying yourself with that. So in loving the spider, you're identifying yourself with your true self. Well, that's so obvious, and yet people miss it. That's completely obvious. You're feeling then you're in a state of loving awareness when you're interacting with the spider. So you benefit, you feel good, you feel expanded.
Absolutely.
You feel connected. Whereas you could have gone, oh, nasty spider, get your shoe, whack the spider.
Yeah, and smash it. That's what my mom will do. She's the killer.
I'm the same. My mom's the same. I remember when
she'll kill it. I'm like, no,
not a spider, it was a scorpion. So we're in the bush here, like in a the bush. So you South Africans, you know what the bush means.
Even in the desert, you've got those as well.
So it's a home. Like we're in the bush, and there's a scorpion that comes into the chalet. And she's, oh, well, I'll kill it. I'm like, you can't do that. It's part of the. It's a living creature. It might have a family. You know what I mean? It might. It's like, who knows? You can't just kill it.
Exactly.
And we've come into its home and built something here, and now you want to kill it. It's like she was like, oh. But it's a disconnection from life, isn't it? Saying like you can just indiscriminately kill things because it doesn't suit your ego, and it might be threatening. See, it's the fear. Oh, that could sting you. Look, well, if you step on it, it's going to sting you, obviously, but just don't step on it. Just get it in a bowl or something, and just put it back in the bush, and it's fine. And that's kind. That's loving kindness. And there's a loving awareness. Then what you're saying in that whole interaction is, I am loving awareness. Right? I treat everything with kindness and love and respect. So identify with that self, and I strengthen that self through those thoughts and those words and those actions.
Yeah.
And then I feel better about myself. If I'm loving awareness, I'm identifying with who I really am, not with the false self that wants to fear and hate and kill and disconnect. And that's why, these Buddhist teachings and so on, they say, respect for life, don't kill. Because you start killing things, then there's an intention to kill, to destroy life, and you're actually destroying your own life. You're denying your life essence. So it's all connected. If you understand it's all connected, it's a web of life. You can't do the unconscious things the ego wants you to do. You just can't, because you realize that's foolish. You're actually hurting yourself.
Yeah. I've been living with other visitors, like ladybugs. I've had so many ladybugs. They're so nice. Blessings.
Well, that's good.
Nice blessings. Ladybugs. They're signs of good luck, so I'll keep them around. Regardless, I'll keep them around.
They're symbols in the dream, aren't they? They're symbols that you're not alone, you're awakening, and you can perceive it as you want to, can't you? Perceive them as an irritation and as a nuisance to be exterminated, or actually this is just a sign of life, and I can connect with them, and they're harmless. So even with pests, if you have, say, an invasion of ants or something, there's a way to do it with loving awareness.
You can put lemon. They don't like it, they just leave.
There's ways. You can ask them to leave kindly, and they might listen. If you tap into their energy, you could ask them to leave, because there's an energy field that they operate in. and communicate. These now for a scientific materialist, that's just like they don't get it. It's bonkers. They don't understand that. They think you're mad because they've denied that reality. They've denied this interior subjective reality exists. So it's not in their worldview. Ken Wilber calls it flatland. The flatland perspective is just the world is flat. Everything's just is what it is. There's no depth to it. There's no mind that's behind it. And there are people like that, who believe that. And
there's an amazing
you're cloud cuckoo land. They'll tell you you're insane. You start talking about spiders' webs and synchronicities and etc. They're not open to this. But very, very smart people. Ken Wilber is a genius. Study all these teachings and they go, well, yeah, absolutely, it's there. You can't deny it. It's an integral part of reality. In fact, the I, subjective, is the only quadrant you can transform in.
Yeah.
Can't really, if you try and do transformation on the behavioral level, it doesn't work. Because you change your behavior, but you haven't changed your mind, it's not going to last.
Yeah.
The only place that there's any hope lies in this quadrant. And that's the very thing the ego wants to deny. So no, you don't, that doesn't even exist. Isn't that interesting? No problem, Christine. Join us when you can.
There's another great movie actually, but it's French this time, and it's 8 Rues de l'Humanité, so 8 Streets of Humanity, and it's also a good movie because it's showing the ego's behaviors. Actually, it's really like showcasing the ego's behaviors of some people. Like one of them is he's a hypochondriac, so the main actor is a hypochondriac, and he's fearing everyone and everything. It's this film during COVID, basically, and every time someone rings at his door, he's freaking out. He's like, "No, don't open!" And it shows how his ego is playing out and acting out. And then they all get confined in that same building because they all live in that same building, right? So they get to actually meet their neighbors that never chatted to. It's happening during COVID time. And there's this crazy scientist actually right below downstairs on that residence or the complex that's trying to find this vaccine to cure the COVID, right? And it's every time he sees like a guinea pig or rat, he asks the neighbor to bring the guinea pig to do his test to try his supposedly vaccination cure to the COVID. But then it's really showcasing the ego. It's funny, but at the same time it's crazy to see how people actually behave like that.
So these movies are showing us the matrix, and showing us the teaching devices.
Yeah.
Start learning this and expanding our perception, and ultimately going beyond the model.
Yeah.
So if you go into the I, and you really explore this as we're doing, this is freedom. You can find your way out by going into this and discovering who you are. This is the domain of self-knowledge. You can't find yourself in the external quadrants.
Yeah. And
you can't find yourself in the we. You can find yourself in the collective we, as the one. But you have to look at your own thoughts, emotions. That's essential. You can't go, oh well, I'm just gonna be like everyone else. That's and not do my own work.
Yeah, because it can be false perception as well. False belief.
You have to go and look at your own mind and really do the exploration and dig in there, and work through your own personal ego, which has its own subtleties and nuances, and because of your individual experience, and it's your job to work that out.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then you join the collective, the intersubjective we on the higher level. You realize I'm at one with everyone. I've transcended my separate self, and I realize that I really am one with everyone and everything. So then I join in that one-ment, and the I and the we become one. But that requires that you go into the I and look at your own stuff very carefully and examine it and let go of what's not correct. The ego's defense is to say, well, you're not even a mind. You don't even have a mind. So if you don't even have a mind, how can you change your mind? You see the defense. You're just a body, you're a brain, and you're just a bunch of atoms and molecules, and everything is external to you. You don't even acknowledge that you have a mind. So there's no ability to change it then.
Yeah.
Bizarre thought system, because clearly you do. You can think. If you can think, you must have some internal subjective sense of self. That's an internal. You can't see your thoughts, but they seem to exist. So it's totally obvious, it should be totally obvious that the interior domains exist. They just can't be seen and felt. But the idea that only what you can see, feel, touch, taste, and perceive with your physical senses, only that's reality, is a very limited idea. That's just the ego trying to believe in its own projection and deny anything else. So again, you can use the model, the integral model, for awareness. So, okay, so I get, in my internal subjective self is interpreting the seemingly objective world, and there's an integral relationship between them. I get feedback from the external world, and then I perceive it in a certain way because of my thoughts, emotions, memories, states of mind. Because of my self-concept, I perceive it in a certain way. Okay, but I want to change this world. How do I change the objective? Well, maybe if this is the cause, then I need to change my subjective sense of self. That's what Yeshua's saying. The cause of the external world is your self-concept. So go change your self-concept, then you change the self that's projecting and perceiving, and then your reality changes. And you start seeing that showing up in your dream in these strange and miraculous ways.
Yeah. Change your self-concept, you said. Oh, I'm having, my pen is not working.
You change your self-concept, then you change your reality.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. The magic of the ego. Okay, well, just go and try and change the external world. Let's take law of attraction, The Secret, that kind of stuff. That's magic, because you're trying to change the external world. You're manipulating with your mind, but you're not really changing your self-concept. You're just saying, I want stuff in the external world because I think that external stuff, whatever it is going to make me happy. So your locus of control is still external. Whereas when you go within and you say, no, I'm going to let go of needing any of this stuff, and I'm just going to find happiness irrespective of what's happening in the external world. My locus of control becomes internal. I am happy, and then I extend my happiness into the world, and I have a happy dream because of that. And my self-concept automatically starts creating the kinds of experiences that go along with the self-concept. That's how it works. So you attract not what you consciously want or intend, you attract what you are on a deeper level, what you believe you are. See, you attract what you are. That's the ultimate law of attraction. Then you don't need to consciously manifest, you just need to be what you are. If you are what you are, you're programming the external world accordingly. You're sending these signals into the quantum field, which is just the mind, and it responds, because that's how mind works. You're interacting with it all the time, and it responds by bringing you more experiences like that. So you have a spider, and then you have a spider's web showing up in the dark. These kinds of things start happening in this strange and mysterious way. Synchronicity.
I remember when I was in SA, actually, I was testing myself to see how I would respond or react with like wild animals as well. Like, would I be fearful and stuff? And I was trying to embrace those fears actually, and just embrace all these different wild animals. Like I even had a dance with a mongoose once that came to visit me when I was actually in the bush somewhere as well. It was interesting. It was like this dance. And also had the experience of petting a cheetah, or like like just a nice connection with cheetahs as well. Those are great tests as well. Like you talk about the test and trials to see where you're at as well. Like, are you really in that love, or are you in fear still with certain situations or conditions or whatever, or surroundings? Lucid.
Yeah.
How
Can
do
you
you-
stay, rooted in your true presence?
Yeah.
There's a famous biblical story of Daniel in the lion's den. He was thrown into the lion's den, and he survived because he stayed in the presence of God. He was in such a high state. His vibration was so high that the lions resonated with they weren't aggressive. They weren't, even though they were hungry, they hadn't eaten. They didn't get stimulated by his energy to attack him, and he just stayed in this peaceful state. Probably prayed the whole night, came out of it, and he survived. And then the guys who'd tried to trick him, it was all a trick for the king to get rid of him because they didn't want him. They were thrown in and they were eaten straight away because the energy was the wrong energy. It was negative. Yeah, they actually, because they'd done something wrong, they felt like they would have felt the guilt, wouldn't they? And so guilt demands punishment, and then the punishment is now you're going to be killed by the lion, eaten.
No, that's amazing. Actually, I love these kind of stories. I went to a place where there was this rescued panther, I think, Black Panther. I don't know if you heard of Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Spirit? That Black Panther that was rescued and was came from an abusive environment, and they couldn't talk to her at first. She was very angry, very aggressive, and she was traumatized basically from what happened to her. She was mistreated, I think, as well previously, and was separated actually from her siblings, and that's where a lot of anger. So they brought in that Anna Brittenbach, who is animals communicator, and to communicate with that panther, because they didn't know, the owners of the reserve, the game reserve, didn't know how to deal with this animal. It was so angry. And so they brought her in, and she managed to communicate, and from that moment they were able to approach the panther and start communicating as well with the panther. But it's an amazing place actually. A lot of animals there seems to be more peaceful. I took pictures. Well, there was it's amazing. I love how they kind of treat animals there in a lot of places. They really respect them and bring them love and show them love to give them a different experience than what they knew before, like the abuse as well. And
it's love, and animals respond very well to that.
It was amazing.
I saw a video once. I mean, this was extraordinary. This great white shark, I kid you not. So this guy, this fisherman, apparently saved a great white. He was caught in a net or something. And so he freed him. He cut the net loose. And so he would go out. The great white knew the sound of his boat, so it would come, and he was holding his hand on the great white snout. It was pointing up out of the boat, and he was giving it a little rub on its nose.
Wow!
I've seen a video, photo.
Yeah, most people fear sharks. Yeah, most people fear.
Because normally a great white will take your hand off.
Yeah.
But this great white was grateful. It knew that it had saved him, and it felt love.
Wow.
So it didn't want to attack him. It wanted to say thank you.
Yeah,
and
so
whenever his boat came out, it would find him because it knew the sound, and it came to have a little, hey, you're my mate, and it wanted to connect. And so he's patting the great white.
It shows you everything is vibration. It shows you.
Well, it just shows you love is always there, even with
the vibration.
A great white shark. Does that know love? Well, yes, it can do. I mean, it would probably still need to feed, but if you're in the right energy, it's not harmful.
Yeah, that's true. It's amazing.
It's not going to harm you. If love overcomes everything, it overcomes all the fear that the ego has invented. That we see in this world, and you see these miracles, and they show you, look, there is a transcendent state. Even things that are seemingly so fearful, great white shark must be like, oh my God, and Jaws and that whole, terrifying. But
that's
actually,
a powerful experience. Yeah, that's a powerful one.
Yeah, love is always there. And you see people, who hang out with lions, and they play with lions. They're like, you know, the
Yeah,
lions
I've
are
seen that.
friends, and the lions don't want to eat them. The lions are their friends, and they just want to play and mess around and, you know, hang out together.
Yeah, I hanged out with cheetahs. Like, I mean, they're the fastest animal. They're also like big animal, prey animals, and it's quite impressive at first. But it's like, okay, I'm just gonna trust on that one and see what happens. But at first,
Yeah.
but
If you're fearful,
even
then
elephants that are massive. Like I actually sang to two elephants in Naizna Elephant Park, and then this place is amazing as well. I mean, and all these experience shows you that who you truly are. Actually, they can reflect also who you truly are.
Yeah. So if you truly fearless and you operate in that, then the world responds accordingly, and then your reality mirrors that. And that's even the case in, you know, you go, well, wild animals are wild animals. No, but they have a consciousness, they have a mind.
They do.
So they're influenced by your you know, perception of it. So they if you're in the right state, they don't attack. The great example, Shirley MacLaine, she did, have you done the Camino? You know, the Camino, it goes through France and Spain, the walk.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do it.
So definitely something I want to do at some point. So she walking the Camino, and there's a section which is notorious apparently for wild dogs. You have to go through this village, and there's, like, you know, wild dogs, and they can potentially attack. And so she's like, she gets herself into the right state. She said she held an image of a heart in her mind. She's just like, I'm just in this bubble of love, I'm in this heart. And she sees a dog, and she just sees the love in it, and she walks through, and they, you know, don't touch her. She just walks through, and nothing happens, because she's in the right state of mind.
It makes sense. Yeah, I had this similar experience like that. I had this kind of experience. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah.
So we have a lot more power than we think. You know, the power to fear or love is our power. If you choose love, even in the most testing circumstances, even in a situation where most people would fear, you can still choose love, and you will come up with a much more effective response than you would have with fear. Fear will not protect you. Fear is the thing that's going to cause you the harm that you fear. So only love will protect you. It's consciously choosing it in those situations, saying, no, I'm going to choose this now. I'm going to let go of the fear because it doesn't serve me. Even in the case of there's apparently wild dogs and I've got to protect myself. She's like, no, I'm going to walk through it fearlessly. And in that fearless state, I'm protected because I programmed the quantum field accordingly. You know, that's my energy now. So then I get back what I'm putting out into it. And everything responds to that. In this is how the matrix works. So it's a morphic field, as Rupert Sheldrake calls it, or the quantum field. It responds to your mind because the everything is mind. It's a projection of mind. So the world responds to who you are on a fundamental level. What are those thoughts? What are those emotions? The prayer of the heart is how you're thinking and feeling moment by moment. That's your prayer going out into the world to then create certain effects. Okay, so the more you live with your, carry on, the more you live with your...
The more you live with your distorted versions of the people and things around you, the more certain you will feel that it is the only true picture of the world. Thus, you build up a warped picture of yourself and the people and situations in your world. For your mind is such that whatever it believes is true produces feedback that continually reinforces and molds your perceptions. It is only when you become free of your addictive programming that you can perceive how things really interact in your world. Yeah.
So it's a very twisted picture that the ego creates. The more you do it, the more it seems to be reality. And if you look at people who've done it their entire life without questioning it, that's their reality, isn't it? You can't tell them otherwise. They so firmly believe it because they've gone I believe it, then I project it, I perceive it, and the projection perception mechanism happens so often that their mind is convinced this is reality, this is how it is, and nothing you say will change their mind. Only some kind of shock, often a trauma, pain might shake that.
Yeah.
So the way of mastery is to say, okay, well, let's consciously start using that. Let's consciously start changing our mind, and then we see, okay, so things change, miracles start happening, synchronicities. So that now confirms, okay, I'm on the right track here. Yeah, actually, this is how it works. And the subtle change in mind is rewarded. I'm seeing the effect. Okay, so let's keep doing it. Let's keep using the projection perception mechanism constructively to free my mind rather than to enslave it in these false thoughts of the ego. And that's what the art of letting go is. It's a constructive, iterative process. You let go, you see the miracle showing up, you learn from that, that reinforces your letting go. You say, yeah, okay, I'm on the right track here because this is stuff's happening, and that's good. It's taking me in the right direction. So these are the signposts on the journey that tell you that, yes, you're going in the right direction mentally and emotionally. That's why the miracle is useful. That's why it's a Course in Miracles, not a Course in Revelation. It's saying you need the signposts on the journey to get to the ultimate destination, which is revelation, the state of pure formless awareness. So you now use the matrix constructively rather than destructively. Use it to free you rather than to enslave you. That's a reinterpretation of the world by the Holy Spirit through the eyes of Christ and forgiveness. And that's what we're training our minds to do. And that's why we came. The only reason you came here was for that process of awakening. The only place you can awaken is here, right? If you've still got the ego and you're not in a body, you come into a body to learn the lessons you need to learn, because you need the mirror to do it.
Yeah.
You need the mirror effect that the world creates for you in order to undo it. Otherwise, it just, what's going to challenge those beliefs? They're in your mind, and you don't see the destructive effects. You come here, you experience the destructive effects of your own beliefs, then you get the opportunity to change your mind.
Yeah.
So you need the world to correct your mind. That's the only purpose of the world.
That's a good one.
And you don't need it when it's no longer useful in facilitating learning. As he says, time will cease when it no longer facilitates learning. So when you've gone back to your original state as pure formless awareness or perfect love, then the need for time is over. There's no need to learn anymore. And so time disappears then. So that's the positive interpretation of the world and time and your experience there. It's about learning who I am. And it's a useful school, very useful school, because it gives you the mirror effect all the time.
Yeah.
So you can now see the effects of your subconscious in the mirror. That's really useful. So now it's not subconscious, it's not unconscious anymore. I can actually see it. I can perceive it clearly because it's being shown to me on the 4-dimensional screen of time and space. Very clearly, and then I can choose to let it go. So that's the constructive, positive interpretation of the world, using this feedback mechanism between these quadrants for your benefit, to free you, to awaken you. And that's why it's a Course in Miracles, because the feedback mechanism is the miracle. Okay, is that clear?
Yeah, can you repeat what you just said, Dick? You need to teach until the end of time.
Yeah. The time is useful as long as it facilitates learning.
Yeah, so it's teach and learn. It's teach and learn, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're teaching ourselves. If we're teaching, then you teach a thought system. So we're learning we're learning the truth. We're learning to who we really are and who we're not. And time facilitates that process because we have experiences in time. Time allows us to have an experience in this world. It allows us to get the mirroring effect that the world gives us. experience it, and then choose to let it go, choose to access our true self or not. And as long as we still need to learn, then time is useful.
Yeah.
But when we've learned all of our lessons, we've gone back to our original state as pure formless awareness of perfect love, time is no longer needed. Then we're in eternity. Time disappears. So that's the positive interpretation of time. It's useful. The body is useful. It's a vehicle for our experience, useful while we need it. A learning device. It's school. We're at school. We need the training. So all of it's useful. You need the classroom. You need the body to be in the classroom, to journey through it. Useful, but it needs to be done with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, interpreting it all. Otherwise, it's pointless. You're just caught up in the dream, trying to make sense of a dream that doesn't make sense, and never succeeding. So the ego's thought systems lead you nowhere. The road to nowhere. They go nowhere. In the end, you die, and there doesn't seem to be any point to that. And why are we born? Have all these seemingly painful experiences, difficulties, challenges, then we age and we die. Why does that happen? And
because that's what we choose. That's what we choose.
We chose it. We chose it as a because that's our separate self. Now we chose to come and be a separate self rather than be the one self, the true self. But we can choose again. So it's a result of a faulty choice. That's what he's saying. The life is a faulty choice. You made a bad choice. Thought you were separate. You believed in separation. That's why you think you're here. So God didn't put you here. No one put you here. You chose to be here. It was your own choice to do this, and so therefore you can choose again. You can choose against that, and that's your ultimate power, is choice in this world. You can choose. You chose to enslave yourself and believe in an illusion. You can choose not to. Which is what this is all about, right? Choosing correctly. Okay, so let's go back to this. Just have a little review of number 2, second pathway. Let's just review it. Any questions on that? What's he saying in summary here in the second pathway?
What you just said.
What I just said. No, I want you to summarize it.
You just did it.
Right?
Yeah, you just summarized it in a way.
I want you to summarize, because that's your learning. So teach me. You're going to teach us. How would you summarize?
Yeah, so you must choose to basically learn to be in your true self and let go of your separate self if you want to be reaching the ultimate state of pure formless awareness of perfect love. I mean, I know it's not using these words here, but it says in order to change our perceptions as well, our mind perceptions, you need to basically choose your true self and be in your true self.
Your consciousness dominating addictions or your expectations of how you think the world should look, and that's how your separate self interacts with the world. And that's the expression of your separate self.
I was translating more the second part, actually, because I thought we did the first part already. So I was just translating more like the second paragraph.
Yeah, well, it's an overall. What it's saying is there's a projection perception mechanism going on.
Yeah.
And so your separate self has all these expectations or addictions, projects them onto the world, and then has this unhappy experience, a very separated experience because of it.
Made from the illusions. Yeah.
And then feeds back and says, oh, you are a separate self, your beliefs are correct. And so we enslave ourselves through the addictions. To free ourselves, we must become aware of how your consciousness dominating addictions, your expectations, create your illusory version. of the changing world, the people and situations around me. So this integral model, you must be aware that you are creating your reality all the time. The external world is not objective. It's actually based on your perception. And your perception is based on your thought system, your self-concept. So the world is your self-concept projected. That's a very interesting insight, isn't it? It's
The
all my
world is
self-concept.
my self-concept projection, or projected, you said.
Yeah.
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 So your perception of reality is your self-concept projected outwards. And then you interpret reality from the place of from the perspective of your self-concept. But we've done that so effectively and so well that we've forgotten we've done it. We've forgotten that the self-concept is actually behind it all.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to be reality. It seems, well, that's just how it is. But actually, it's not how it is. It's how your self-concept chose it to be.
Wow, that is crazy when you realize
Yeah,
this.
so it's a mind blower. But that's that. So now this process is about becoming aware of that projection perception mechanism, becoming aware that yes, this is my self-concept that's projecting all the time, and I need to become aware of that so that I can stop it. Because if I'm unconscious of it, it's just happening, then I'm a victim. It just happens to me. I don't seem to have any control. That's what this is saying. Hi, Christine. Welcome again. Yeah,
that's powerful.
oh, perhaps I think you missed. Did you miss the second pathway? We were
Yes.
discussing it. So just read it. You read it aloud, and if you got any questions, let me know.
I'm discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions create my illusionary version of the changing world of people and situations around me. We see things not as they are, but as we are. Every addiction distorts your effective processing of the enormous flow of information that is continually flooding in through all your sensory inputs from both conscious and unconscious levels. Your programmed addictions determine your experience of the world, for they are the guides that your reticular activating system, your ego, uses to determine which data will be suppressed and which can go into your consciousness and command full attention. The more you live with your distorted versions of the people and things around you, the more certain you will feel that it is the only true picture of the world. Thus, you build up a warped picture of yourself and the people and situations in your world. For your mind is such that whatever it believes is true produces feedback that continually reinforces and molds your perceptions. It is only when you become free of your addictive programming that you can perceive how things really interact in your world. As I was driving, I was thinking we should make a list of what we think our addictions are. All the compulsive things that we do unconsciously that probably trigger other people. And when you really look at it, it is just an addiction that you've got used to perceiving reality as that. Not that at all.
Yeah. It's your self-concept interacting with the world, and it's an illusion. You've made it up.
Yes. Well, your parents helped you make it up when they were imprinting you with it as a child.
But there's always choice. You see, what he's saying is you have the power of choice. You choose how you respond. That's your only power in the dream, in the enslavement of the ego's dream, is to choose. So you can choose another way. You don't have to honor these addictions. You can choose to let them go and perceive it differently. And then that's how you change your reality, how you change your world.
That's why we get the rebels of our society and the people who think out of the box. And the people in this like-minded group who are spiritually inclined, whereas there are many people who are not, and so take a completely different worldview of things.
Yeah,
but we've chosen this.
Mm. You live in a different world. You know, your world is different. How do you change your world? It's so simple. You change the world instantly. You just change your perception.
Yeah,
It's so simple.
it's so simple.
Seek
when
not to change the world, external world, says Yeshua in the course, but seek to change your mind about the world. So change your mind, you change your self-concept, and you perceive it differently. You've just changed your world. You changed your reality because you perceived it differently. Your reality is perceptual. Like, it's so obvious, you know, that's how it works. So instantly you change your world. It's not some long-term objective, oh, you know, we've got to do this to. No, you change your world the moment you change your perception, which only comes when you change your self-concept. So simple. That's what the miracle is. You know, you just change your world when you have a shift.
I was thinking of Aurelie when I was driving back through Hart Bay, because she will know Hart Bay well. And over the last 5 years, it has grown exponentially.
Really?
It is so traffic congested and chaotic at the moment that it just triggers me all the way as I'm driving. You stupid fool, you stupid, can't you see where you're going? And I just think back to rural Hart Bay when there were hardly any cars on the road. And everybody thought like I did. Now we've got all these high business people and tourists at the moment from Europe. And it's
all perfect.
Going out there just for a 5-minute drive.
I'm sure it's still as beautiful and perfect as it's always been.
Yeah,
so
you look at the mountains and the trees, and then you suddenly realize I'm home.
Yes, it is a home place for sure. I mean, it's places within, right? Home is within. I mean, home is within, but it is a beautiful place to be home as well. It's a beautiful place to call home. Yeah.
But you know, your reality. So on that drive is a good example. So you have a program that Hart Bay should be this way, like it was 10 years ago.
Yes.
And the not necessarily, if it triggers you, it's not a preference, it's actually an addiction. Right?
It is an addiction, yes.
And then that makes you suffer because you're driving through, and the present reality doesn't meet the addictive expectation.
Yes.
So then you experience a stress, and you go, oh, why is this happening? And I feel resistance, and I'm uncomfortable. And my experience of that moment is then a difficult one. I'm not in a happy flowing state because of my own programming. You see, that's a perfect example. You just gave us that. And that's how spirit works. You have to go out, get the example, and bring it back to the session, give it to us. So now but you can change. The next time you go and say, okay, so I'm in charge here. It's not that the traffic and whatever isn't determining my experience here. I'm determining my experience.
Yes, and I have to slow down, and I have to be present. And what I realize is I'm habitually taking the quiet back roads. So I don't need to deal with the traffic. But actually, I'm now saying, no, go with the flow. Go with the traffic, because the more
it's a test, isn't it?
The more I'll get used to it.
Yeah. And you put yourself in the testing environment. You go, okay, so let's see how I react then. Okay, so let's keep breath awareness. Let's breathe, notice breath.
And then I had a refuse truck in front of me, and there were 4 guys on the back. And the one guy was saying, he jumped off and he started charming me because I rolled down my window, and he says, we're all so hungry, we're so hungry. And I was just having a different conversation and saying, that truck is so dirty. And he was being quite, he wasn't being a typical beggar asking for food because he had a job, but it was the end of the day, they'd worked hard and now they're just famished. They would love some food. So I was having this little interaction with him, and I thought, wow, it's so colorful, really. Hart Bay is such a wonderful place to live in nowadays.
So there you go. So there's a different experience. There's a connection in the chaos. Can you see the divine in the chaos? See, that's the art of it. The art of letting go. Let go of the misinterpretation and see. There's just connection. There's love. There's awareness everywhere, and then your experience is a miraculous one.
Yes, and the symbolism of the disposal truck. It's removing the refuse and the mistakes and the addictions.
Yeah.
It's symbolic of what you're letting go of.
There you go. Yeah. So
it
then you make
depends
a
on how
choice
you
to live in the
perceive
domain of the miraculous, and it's quite beautiful. Yeah.
So I missed your conversation. So let's continue on to, is there a third pathway?
Yeah, there is. We could do the third pathway now. How's everyone doing on time? Okay. To do another pathway, or I actually wanted to do
5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock here. 4 o'clock your time. Or I just have a look at the 7 truths, which is part of your course manual. Let's just find it. 7 truths is further on, I think. Yeah, further on. 7 truths. Just find it somewhere here. Let's go to the 7 truths there. Okay, so the 7 truths. And that starts. So 7 truths. We'll just, I think, read this and then close it out with a meditation. How does that sound?
Okay, short meditation, please.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to read number 1? God is perfect love or oneness.
God is perfect love or oneness. God, love, oneness is all there really is. All else is unreal illusion and does not really exist. Glow, what does glow mean?
That's God, love, oneness. I just
Okay.
buzzed.
Did not create the illusionary material universe. The apparently separated ego mind did to perpetuate its dream of separation from glow.
Yeah, so just pause it there. Let's have a look at the. So you see that this is the non-dual logic of the course. Okay, I really have to go. No problem. Thanks for joining. So join us at 6 o'clock your time if you can for the evening session. So God is perfect love, oneness. That's the fundamental statement, truth. If you believe God is not love, then you have a split in the mind. But that fundamental statement is what we're holding to. We're saying that's the only truth. So that's all there really is. This is the what is. It's ultimate reality, and therefore all else, anything that seems to be other than this, must be unreal illusion, and does not really exist. So nothing real can be threatened. This reality is unthreatenable, and everything else is unreal and doesn't really exist. That's the only position you can have to maintain this belief, isn't it? If you say God is perfect love and oneness, but actually there's something else that's going on that's real, then now you have a split. Now God, if this is ultimate reality, then God must be dualistic. You must then have something opposite to God, and that's equally real. And you split your mind. So the non-dual position is the only thing that's logical, that makes sense. To the ego, it doesn't make sense. The ego is going to tell you you're insane. There is to deny everything else, deny what's not love, and say that's unreal and it doesn't really exist. That's the logic of this course, which is actually very simple logic. It's not rocket science, is it?
No, it's not. It's very simple. The dilemma comes
Really.
if one does not see oneself as God, and if one does not see oneself as the.
Yeah.
So if you enmeshed
Well, that's
in
the whole delusion.
Yeah.
The delusion is we believe in something else. We believe the unreal is not real. It does exist, and that has usurped this perfect love. We don't have awareness of perfect love anymore because the unreal illusion has replaced it in our minds, and we've given that our belief.
Yep.
And so, these statements are logically consistent. God, love, oneness didn't create the illusory material universe. If God is all there really is, there can't really be anything else. So reality, true reality, could not have created the illusion. Right? They are opposite. They are separate. You now seem to have something else going on. It's apparently separated mind that believes it's separate, but it has no reality. It's a false belief. That's why it's an illusion. And it did all of this to perpetuate its dream of separation from glow. So it believes it's got a separate identity. It's separate from this God, love, oneness, and it's now in another reality to perpetuate that false identity. So these are just fundamental statements of this this teaching. So I thought it'd be useful to put in one document, 7 points. So if you accept these are premises, they're premises of a thought system. If you deny these, you say God isn't love, then none of the others follow. But then you have a problem. God isn't love. Now you've got an insane God. You've got a God in which all kinds of awful things can happen. So what are your choices? You believe God is love, or you believe God is not love. Those are the choices.
But we're addicted to suffering. We're addicted to pain. And we can't see the delusion that we've created for ourselves because of the choices we've made.
We're addicted to our separate self. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
The separate self wants to maintain its separation. And the pain and the suffering are tools that it uses to maintain that. And we're addicted to thinking that we're a separate self and not one self. And that separate identity is the entire problem. And that's the only problem there is. That's what Yeshua's trying to teach us. Look, there's no other problem. It's all, the problem is your self-concept, your sense of being a separate self. So we've got to work on that, and we've got to help you to undo that, because that's the cause of all of your problems in life. And so to do that, forgiveness or letting go. You want to read that? Number 5.
Forgiveness or letting go simply acknowledges this by recognizing that what you think has happened has not really happened. So there is really nothing to forgive or let go of.
You see, it's based on the premises. These premises underpin the logic. Okay, so these are not really real. Nothing unreal really exists. The unreal illusion hasn't really happened because God is all there is. On that foundational principle, on that premise, forgiveness rests. If you don't believe this, then you can't do forgiveness. But we don't fully believe it. So we need to do forgiveness or letting go to help us to learn it, don't we? It's an iterative process. So I can kind of get this, but when I'm called to let go of something, then I'm actually saying, okay, I'm practicing this now. I'm putting this idea, this thought system into practice. I'm applying these premises to my interpretation of reality. That's the practical application. And the more I do that and I apply it, the more I learn that this actually must be true. So forgiveness or letting go is the practical application of this theory. And it works. If you do it, you see that you do get benefits, you get results that are miraculous, that are very beneficial. So that confirms to you, okay, well, maybe actually the premise is true. And so my faith is then strengthened in it. And this is how we learn the truth. through this process of letting go, which confirms the truth over and over that it is true to us.
With this body spin little process we do in life alignment, the 4 steps are to feel what you're feeling, the drama, the suffering that's happening, and then to choose. So what would you choose as opposed to the suffering? And then the 3rd step is let go. So you let go of the pain, you let go of the addiction, you let go of the negative thinking. And some people just cannot let go. It might be, I've got to let go of this marriage. And they're not ready to let go. They're not ready to do that forgiveness process. And you have to honor that, because people have to be ready to do that vital step. Because once that energy is dissipated from the energy field, then they can receive the love. And they'll be receiving something that they choose in the 2nd step. And you bring that energy in.
Yeah. Yeah. Same process. It's a letting go process. And so you look at these various paths and you go, it's all the same thing, really. It's all versions of letting go. There's different ways of letting go, different approaches to it. But in the end, you've got to let go of the negativity, the false belief that you are not love. That's what you've got to let go of, in whatever way, shape, or form that shows up. Yeah, that might require that you let go of a marriage, or you let go of a past trauma. And we struggle with letting go because our self-concept is identified with that trauma.
Yep.
So
who would I be without this? Yes.
Be without it. Yeah, exactly. You know, the timeline of consciousness is telling us that this must be the old version. Let's just go. I changed this briefly. Let's just go to timeline of consciousness. There we go. The timeline of consciousness. We get attached to the dramas of our life, and our self-concept is reinforced by the thoughts and emotions around the dramas. Oh, this happened, I'm a victim, oh, poor me, what happened to me, I lost my parents, I've now been rejected by someone, and that self-concept is what we're addicted to. So when we let go of those thoughts and emotions, we're letting go of our self-concept. And that's why people struggle with it, because who would I be without this? Well, who you'd be is pure form of awareness, the perfect love. That's who you'd be. And you'd be free and you'd be happy and peaceful. But the ego is telling you that no, you prefer the pain of the self-concept than the freedom of this. So it says, hold on for dear life, because this is your life. This psychological and emotional attachment and the life that you seem to be living on the red level. This is your life. This is what it is. This is existence. And without it, you're gone. You know, even though in the end it leads to one place, and that's death. In the end, so you're a goner anyway. You're going to die anyway. But it's like, no, we'll cling to it because you've got how many years life. It's you just carry on and survive. It's crazy thought system, really, because in the end it leads to death. So what's the point then? What's the point of all the drama if in the end you die? The ego's got no good answer to that question, because there's no point. That's the answer. There's no point. There's no ultimate point. It's a delusion. It was a separation from love, and it's a delusion. So there's no real point. The point, now that you're in the dream, the only point is to awaken. That becomes your purpose, to get out of the dream, to escape back into love, and to leave it all behind. So then your single purpose becomes letting go, awakening. You recognize what awakening comes through letting go. So then I must reinterpret these situations, all the traumas and the addictions and whatever's arising. I must reinterpret it and go into my true awareness in every situation. That's the reinterpretation the Holy Spirit's going to help you do. Then you perceive it, but you perceive it differently from this higher perspective. You release and you free your mind to now experience maybe something different. You don't necessarily need more trauma. you can have, you let go of that, and you can open to a happier dream. And so you change your world, you change your reality.
And work on I am love.
Yeah. Start living in this. You're living in this. This is the I am presence. I am that I am love. I am in the end, the I am. I could put that in there. What is, or I am, is what it's called. The I am that I am. That just is. There's no, you can't explain it. It's not like, oh, well, it is because of this. It just is. And then you're accessing primary reality, ultimate reality in your mind right now. So it's vertical. You just go above the timeline, you go into it. It's like at any point you can do that. You can connect, and you can go into that state, and then you can perceive the situation from that higher awareness. That's what the forgiveness process is doing. And that's then training your mind to accept this. Every time you forgive, you're saying, yeah, I choose this, I accept this, I want this. You keep doing that, then by the end of your life, hopefully your mind's corrected. You're like, oh, okay, I want only that. I've made the choice. So I'm done with this whole thing, this whole red, crazy, insane process of the ego and karma and reincarnation and going through another life. I'm done with it because I don't need it anymore. I can just stay in my true awareness, and I stay here forever, for eternity, and there's no time because nothing changes. So it's quite simple when you lay it all out. I mean, it's actually, human life is quite simple to when you have the high understanding, but most people don't. Most people don't understand this. So then you're in the red. If you're in the red stuff, you're trying to somehow make the illusion work, and make it somehow work for your little self, and find a way. And it's like the impossible trying to fit a square cube into a round hole. It doesn't work. It's impossible. It's not a solvable problem. But we try and solve the insoluble problem until maybe through enough pain you go, okay, maybe I have to accept that it's not solvable on the level that it was invented. So the significant problems we created cannot be solved the same level of thinking we had when we created them. You can't solve it with the ego, with the idea of separation. The solution lies outside of that thought system. This is exactly what we're studying here. It's outside of the thought system that created the illusory material universe and the dream of separation. And that's what forgiveness or letting go does. It takes us above the battleground, outside of that thought system, back to our true awareness, where we're unaffected by any of this stuff in time and space. And we recognize there's actually nothing to let go of, really, in truth, because I'm already perfect. In this reality, there's nothing to let go of. So all there. This is unreal. So do I need to really let go of the unreal, or do I just need to recognize it for what it is? That's the ultimate kind of forgiveness. I just recognize it for what it is. Step 5. And principle 6.
Letting go of your psychological and emotional attachments to everyone and everything in the illusory dream world in which you seem to live is the only way to awaken from the dream and realize that you are really one with God, love, oneness.
You see how this builds, the 7 truths. If you accept all these premises, you must then accept that letting go is the only way. See, it's logical.
But you also have to accept that you have to believe in that God is love. I am love. I am God.
Yeah. I mean, so it's learning to accept.
And most people don't. I mean, that's the problem.
Yeah. That is the only problem we have. We don't believe in a false self, false identity. But the way to awaken from that is the letting go. He's saying that's the mechanism. You must let go of your psychological and emotional attachments to everyone and everything. Those are your addictions, attachments, addictions, in order to awaken, in order to realize experientially that you are actually this God, love, oneness, not as some theory, but as a felt experience. The letting go accesses that experience. And then you realize this is the only way. I can't awaken if I don't let go. If I hold on to these things, then I'm asleep. Then God, love, oneness is obscured. It's covered over. I don't have that experience. I have the experience of psychological and emotional attachment and addiction and the pain it causes, which covers over the loving awareness that's underneath it. So this, the seven truths, if you accept the premises, you must then accept that letting go is the only way. This is the way out. You can deny these premises. You can, good luck if you do that. God is not perfect love or oneness. Okay, we'll try that on, see how that works. It's not going to go so well, because then you're believing in an illusion. You're believing in something that's not true. And you have to try and justify that. Oh, well, God's a dualistic God. Wow, that's a bit. So God is love, but he's also fear. How does that make sense? How can a God be love and hatred at the same time? Does that make any sense at all? Do you see the logical impossibility of it? Like if you actually state the opposite, okay, so God is not love. God is then anger and fear and hatred and attack and all the dark stuff we see in this world. How do you make sense of that then? How would that be a sustainable thought system that could serve you? It couldn't, could it? You would just say like, well, based on that premise, there's no foundation for any kind of life. That would be life lived backwards. That would be evil to believe that. Love is evil. Evil is love spelled backwards. So you have to accept that fundamental premise. That's all you have to do, and then go from the premise. Okay, all those the logic then is inescapable. Then yes, okay, letting go must be the only way. I have to let go of what's not true to reveal what's true. Okay, then I accept that. Then I get busy with letting go. Then I've got some purpose to my life. I know what I'm actually doing here. I've got a purpose that's taking me in the right direction. Otherwise, my fundamental premise is wrong. I'm totally confused. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm trying to make sense of what doesn't make sense. It's my thoughts and a lack of inner peace. And that's where most people act, because they haven't thought this through. They haven't consciously gone, okay, so, what is actually true, and been logical about it, and then come to a logical conclusion that, okay, then the only way for me to live my life is in the letting go way. I must let go continuously. That's the only thing that makes any sense. Anything else is insane. So that's why, so the seven truths is an exercise in perfect logic. One, if you accept one, then the next one follows, and the next one follows. So you won't accept that letting go is the only way if you have doubts about these fundamental premises and you don't believe these.
Yeah, well, that's what. Just
so it's an act of faith. To let go is to say, okay, I actually am having faith in these premises when I let go, you see? And so you're practicing the belief, you're practicing learning this and believing this through the letting go. It's an act of faith. Okay, I'm willing to trust that there is something else. And then life shows you, yes, there is something else. It gives you a miracle. And you go, oh, actually, maybe there is something else. My faith is strengthened because look, something happened. So it was good. It's a beneficial result. Okay, so now let me keep doing it. Then you get more miracles. And that's the only way you're going to escape, because you need the feedback mechanism of the miracle in the world to show you you're on the right track, to help you to overcome the ego's thoughts.
That is the medicine.
Did you say amazing?
That is the medicine. Living constantly in the awareness of glow is the only way to live in a state of inner peace in the dream world, and train your mind to remain perfectly aware of glow eternally after your body dies, thus making this lifetime your last. But you see, most people I associate with are atheists. They don't, so they don't believe in lifetimes, or that life ends when the body, or life continues when the body dies. So to say that there is another way to live this life is blasphemy, because you've got to suffer. You're a sinner and you've got to suffer, and only if you endure the suffering will you get into, or if you don't believe in life after death, there's no heaven. So the atheist doesn't believe in anything beyond this life, is my understanding. They're very cynical of God is love.
Because in their experience, God is not love. The world is definitely not loving. No. And it's been unkind and cruel. And so they've adopted that thought system and they've believed it. And they're in the cynicism of the ego.
What God could create this? It's not a loving God that has created this world.
But actually, you can talk to him and say, well, yeah, actually, it's true. There is no, God didn't create this. That's the whole point. So don't try and, make it real by saying God created it. God didn't create it. It's an illusion.
Man separated from God.
Yeah, it's a split off mind. This is an illusion. It's a false reality. It's insane. And I mean, that's shocking for some people. They don't want to know that. But an atheist might be more open to that than, say, a traditional Christian.
Yes.
Because they've already started to question some of the dogma. An atheist has questioned, the sort of traditional religious belief and said, no, I don't believe it. So they're kind of halfway out in some ways, because they've questioned that whole paradigm of the judgmental, fearful, wrathful God and sin and guilt and all that. And they go, no, I don't want any of it. But now they don't know what else to believe. So you could have a conversation with atheists and say, okay, well, let's talk about logic then. Atheists believe in logic. Okay, so let's talk about the logic then. Use this logic. Okay, well, God is perfect love or oneness. Then it must be all there really is. Therefore, nothing else really exists. So therefore, this whole thing must be an illusion. It's a false. And if they open, they might say, okay. And they say, well, have you watched The Matrix? You can try and work with it. But someone has to have some willingness. If they're rigid atheists, then they just, they're in another dogma. They're just stuck in that thought system. It's another defense against the truth. The scientific materialist, that's the sort of atheistic belief, isn't it? Well, the only thing that exists is this. And
what you can see and touch. And
yeah, that's the only thing, right? See, feel, touch, taste, smell, that's all that exists. So scientists who say they're atheists, they go, well, only what's objective is real. But even their science, you say, okay, well then talk to them about quantum physics. That's a good entry point. Okay, so what's quantum physics saying? You believe in science. Okay, yeah. You know about quantum? Yeah, I know about quantum. Okay, so what's quantum physics saying? There is no reality in the absence of observation. Whoa, really? Yeah, Copenhagen interpretation. Go check it out. There's no reality in the absence of observation. That's the summary of it. So, in other words, the apparently objective reality and the observer are not separate at all. They are connected. And they've done countless experiments to show that. The double slit experiments, classic. Like, so they beam slits through electrons, so-called, through two different slits. And they interact and they form a wave pattern. Right? And then they go, okay, well, now we're going to put a counter onto the slit that actually counts whether the particles go through one or the other. And it's no longer a wave, it shows you the bands they're going through as particles, because they behave according to the intention of the experimenter. Wow. So it's not objective reality. They are part of the subjective experience of the person who is perceiving them. The intention of the experimenter and the outcome of the experiment are not independent. They are connected. That's what quantum physics is saying. They've done the experiment over and over, and you can do it yourself if you have the equipment. You'd see. And then they even do it with one experiment, with one slit, and they go, okay, so if you put an electron and you beam an electron at 2 slits, right? If you have a counter, it goes through one slit to another. And if you don't have a counter, it behaves like a wave and it interferes with itself. It's spooky, isn't it? It's weird. It's like, so the scientists can't really get their head around that, because it messes with their so-called objective reality. You know, the Newtonian physical idea, Newtonian physics says, no, there's some kind of objective world out there, and you can map it, and it's got these physical laws, and it's atoms and all of that. And they thought, the sort of turn of the century, no, last century, that they kind of had it sorted. They'd sussed it out. They had this model, atoms, and then, whoa, quantum physics comes on and goes, no. Actually, you haven't got a clue. It's totally the opposite. It's a perceptual reality. In other words, it's a dream. You know, you're dreaming this. That's what it's saying, which kind of rattles the ego's cage a bit. One of the guys, I think it was Heisenberg or Schrödinger, who was one of the sort of founders of quantum physics. He was interviewed towards the end of his life, and he said, I don't like it, and I wish I'd never had anything to do with it. Because it messed with his idea of reality. You know, it's like, whoa, what is it telling me? So but honest scientists would then go, okay, but that's actually telling me that my paradigm is incorrect. Yeah, I had a belief system that's false, and the science, good science, exposes that and shows me that it's false. So therefore, I must change my belief. Not, oh, I dogmatically believe this anyway, irrespective of the scientific results. And that's the criticism Rupert Sheldrake has of the scientific community. Says it's as a dogma. You know, science is no longer this so-called, you know, objective, learn by experience, test it out and see, and then determine the theory based on the observation. That's what it should be. That was the scientific method. It's no, we have a dogma and we discard things that don't meet the dogma. We don't want to see that. So they ignore the things that aren't convenient, and that's a dogma. That's just a belief. It's not based on what you're actually observing. So their own method, which is so-called sacrosanct to science, they've denied it, and they're in a dogma. And he gave a talk, a TED talk, back in 2013, 10 years ago, and they banned it. So interesting. They actually banned it, TED, so-called free speech, because they didn't want, the ego doesn't want to hear that. Hang on, you guys are all, it's an system is the new world religion that everyone believes in by default. Because he was hitting a nerve. It's like, yeah, it's actually true. There's no it's subjective. You have a dogma, you believe it, and then you discard evidence that doesn't meet it. So he went and he did explorations with into things like the constants of gravity and speed of light, and he found that they're not constants. They actually change. They've done measurements and they change. They're not by much, but fractions. You know, speed of light changes like by 20 miles an hour or something for a certain time over 20 years or so. Actually, between the wars, interesting, the speed of light changed. It's like, well, what's that about? He went to the guys in charge of this, you know, measuring these things, and he said, oh, well, you've just hit on the most embarrassing fact in science. He said that it must be an error. It's an error. And he said, how do you know it's an error? Maybe it's not an error. Maybe it's actually true. Maybe they aren't constants. Maybe things are. No, because there's a dogma. They want to believe in a fixed reality. See, that the speed of light is constant, that it doesn't change. That's a dogma. It's a belief. And so someone like him starts going, well, hang on, is that actually true? And They don't like it. They're like, don't question too much because our dogma says this. It's the same as religions, exactly the same. We have a dogma, we believe in it, and if you come and you question it, you're a heretic. So, then we ban you. And days gone past, they wouldn't ban you, they'd kill you, they'd burn you at the stake. But it's the same idea. We don't want the truth to come out. But it needs these free thinkers to say, no, actually, let's question it. Question the dogma, question the paradigms, because that's when awakening happens. Then you question the dominant paradigm of the world, which is scientific materialism. It's a new world religion. And you say, that's just not true. And there's no way, the evidence doesn't support that at all. And you could have a conversation with any scientist, and if you know your stuff, they won't be able to answer you. Where does consciousness come from? Where does the mind come from? Can't answer that question. No answer in the scientific materialist paradigm. So it leaves all kinds of unanswered questions and all kinds of logical contradictions, and can't explain things like, those constants changing, and it can't explain things like telepathy, and it can't explain synchronicities and miracles. It really doesn't explain very much, actually. So maybe it's just not a good theory. We should chuck it out and accept a more expanded theory, which is what Ken Wall was proposing. So the integral model says it's all interacting. The mind, your internal and your external reality are not separate. They are different aspects of this so-called one reality. And the only way to really change the external is to change the internal. It's connected. This is causative. This is primarily causative, the I. That causes everything. That's causation, because that causes the we, the collective thoughts, emotions, memories, states of mind, perceptions, form an intersubjective we. That's our shared values, meanings, language, culture, etc. So it all comes down to the I. And that's what this course is about. Go into the I and look and see, who are you? Are those thoughts, emotions, memories, states of mind, perceptions that you think is you, is that real? Is that actually true, or is it false? Is there something beyond the little I? The great I am is a deeper I, a bigger I that's transcendent. So in the model, he's got the levels of development. That you journey through these levels from body to mind to soul to spirit, and you journey up the levels. And the journey is a subjective one. It must be happening in your own internal state of mind. It doesn't happen externally. And then as you do that, your world shifts. So at, say, the level of spirit, that's on the very outer of the spider's web, your perspective of reality of this is going to be much more expanded. You're going to see it differently, aren't you? Than if you're right in the inner self saying, well, I'm just a body and I just believe in the material world. Much more contracted, narrow. Your worldview is going to be very different. That's what it's trying to say.
And that's where the map of consciousness makes such sense, because you can see how you can raise your level of understanding or raise your vibration from those lower levels to the bliss and love of the up levels.
Yeah, this is a developmental model. So it's the idea of levels, which is another part of the integral model. He's got quadrants and then he's got levels and lines and states, and it gets quite complicated. But quadrants and levels are the main ideas. You've got the quadrants of reality, and then you experience those quadrants from the level of consciousness that you're at. So if you're at a level of anger, your experience of those quadrants is going to be very different from if you're at a level of joy.
Yes.
So your reality is going to be different.
In fact, with kinesiology and muscle testing, you can find out where am I on the scale of 22,000. And when you get a positive, a yes, and you look at those 4-5 quadrants, you realize actually that is what I'm processing. That's exactly what I'm feeling now, and it is.
So it's a tool for awareness. This is it's not a tool for like, oh, I'm better than you because I'm at a higher level. It's a tool for self-awareness
Yes,
and
you've got to
be aware
honest
of where
with
you
yourself.
are. You know, what's your default level? If I'm normally angry, if I'm normally anxious, then that's my default level. That's, you know, I'm going to be at, if anxiety is my dominant emotion, then I must be at a level of fear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And whereas
100. If I'm get angry a lot, then that's my dominant level. That's going to be my default state. So you can then see, and it gives you perspective. Okay, but there are these higher levels, and I could raise myself up into the higher levels through this process of
and it varies from
forgiveness.
day to day. I mean, today I'm at 350, and if I look at across, we're working on forgiveness, transcendence, transformation, an acceptance of the belief that God is love, pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's a harmonious group. We're moving in creating harmony and mercy. But I mean, tomorrow
mercy is like loving kindness. It's like, it's very, you know, there's a beneficent power that's trying to help us and guide us. And then, you know, if you go down into, like, you could temporarily, if you got irritated, frustrated on the drive, you drop down into anger. Yes. And temporary, that was your experience. So you can bounce up and down the scale. You can be in different states of mind throughout the day. It's useful to be aware of it. Okay, well, I dropped into anger there because that energy, that nice, open, kind of calm, expansive energy, it became contracted, didn't it? It's like, oh, I'm feeling a resistance. And okay, so now I just dropped down the scale. Then it's to be aware of it. Yeah, so then you came straight back into the session and you're like, okay, now I'm back up. And so you will vacillate. They're going to be, you know, as you're learning this, you don't stay at the same level all the time necessarily. And sometimes the darkness arises. It's got to process it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, you go there and you're processing anger or fear, whatever it is. It's necessary. You've got to go there.
Let go of it.
To let go of it, but it's temporary. It's like you don't dwell in that state. The danger is you dwell in that state. It's like this becomes your default pattern. This is now your self. It's your reality. It becomes your life. It dominates you. That's, you know, then it's enslavement. You're in prison, the ego. If you bounce into it and you go, okay, I went into anger there a little bit, because any kind of frustration or irritation is a form of anger. Okay, but I'm aware of it. So next time I'll correct it. Next time I'm on a drive, do it a little bit differently. Maybe I'll prepare myself. I'll just go get in the car and I'll say, okay, take a minute, just take a few deep breaths, connect with the presence, ask the Holy Spirit for guidance, and follow the breathing. While you're breathing, follow the breathing. You could even say, I am love. You know, and say everything happens and you breathe in, you say, I'm love. And something happens and you feel the energy arising of the ego and you, I'm love. And then it's a different experience. So now you've
have a meditation. I choose to meditate every day and be more and more in that all being perfect, peace, bliss, illumination.
Yeah.
Until eventually I'm in there all the time.
Yeah. So if you do like a meditation practice every morning, it sets you up into that frequency. It's a great way to start your day because you've raised yourself into, let's say, a very peaceful state. You're at 600. You now come into your day and you're coming in from a very high state of mind. Okay, so you might drop down a bit and you might be in reason, or so maybe you've got to do something. So you've got to access willingness. Okay, but you started from a high state. The worst thing you can do, you know, roll out of bed, go straight onto social media, turn on the TV, turn on the radio, get all this sensory input coming in, negative input, and then you start off the day in a low state of mind. Well, it's only going to go one way, isn't it? It can only get worse. Or stay in that state. So meditation just recalibrates you and it changes your day. Because if you're at that frequency, you operate in joy. That's a powerful quantum energizer. It goes into the quantum field and it creates things like it. So then flow and miracles start to happen when you're in a state of joy. So, you know, to go fast in life, go slowly. Meditate, spend the hour meditating, go into a deep state of awareness in the meditation, and then allow that to work the miracles, and it speeds things up. It you know, miraculous things happen that are very beneficial. Are you doing the guided letting go meditation in the morning?
I choose to put it that way. I'm at the point where I choose to do it every day.
Okay. Have you actually done it or not?
No.
Not yet. Okay. So tomorrow, get up and do it. First thing, it's an hour, but it will set you into this kind of state. It sets you into that vibration. And then your day follows accordingly.
We have body points on the body. We have a point that is called the body of love. We have the body of joy. So you can actually access those qualities in the body and be that. I choose love. I choose joy. And we can work with that in a very powerful way.
Yeah, well, it's energy centers. Yeah, the love sits in your heart chakra, and so you can access that and you can feel it. So in the meditation, you drop into it. I say go into your heart and feel it and clear that. You touch the energy centers, chakras, to clear the energy and allow that to come through. They're not, the energy centers are actually portals. They're accessing the other world, and you're bringing in the life energy from the other world through that portal. And so you open it up. That's where life essence comes through. If they're blocked and closed, then it stops the life force coming through.
And then you're stuck with the pain body and the fear body, and woundology, and that becomes the habit.
Yeah.
So opening the heart to these portals is vital.
And letting go does that. You let go of the negative thoughts and emotions and the energy associated with it, and then that opens you to these higher energies, because that's what's left. You cut away what's not true, and what remains is true. It's so simple. So simple. But the ego just makes it.
So I have to walk my talk, and tomorrow morning I have to do the letting go meditation.
Yeah, get up and just say, okay, no big deal. Do it in the first 5 minutes, so don't get busy with anything else. Get up, go to the toilet, get a cup of tea, but like within 5 minutes, you're hitting the meditation, wherever, and create a safe space for yourself. So you could do it on your bed, but sit up in bed, don't lie down. Or you could go outside if it's a nice day. You could go into nature, sit outside, create a space. It's like, I'm comfortable here. This is a safe space. I'm not going to be disturbed. I can put my headphones on and I can just go into it and just immerse myself in this process for an hour. And then just go with the process. I guide you. So it actually goes quite quickly. It's nothing to be scared of. You just touch, tone, breathe, go through the process and allow the experience to unfold for you. And the hour allows you to go very deep into it and set yourself. That's why like 10 minutes, you can't go as deep. So like set yourself into a deep state of love, joy, peace. Actually feel that. And then you've just recalibrated yourself for the day. And also you're doing forgiveness. The 10-step letting go process that's part of this. You're doing it in an altered state. So in this deeper state, where your mind is quiet, you're now accessing your subconscious. You do it at a deeper level. The stuff will come up out of the subconscious, and you can access it more clearly than if you're like, okay, well, I'm doing forgiveness, but I'm driving and I'm scattered and my conscious mind's busy. So it allows that, deeper healing to happen, which can be challenging. The ego, the emotions can arise that are difficult, but then just go through the process. Like, okay, just observe it and follow the process to let it go, because there's the letting go process is in the meditation. So it's a combination of, I think, the two most powerful modalities for transformation. The one is forgiveness, conscious forgiveness, and the other one is meditation. And you combine them, and then you've got something that's really very powerful in one go. So make that your default. Okay, every day I do the 1 hour meditation. I'm going to send you shorter versions of it, which have at the core of it the 10-step letting go process. There's a half-an-hour version, there's a 40-minute version. Just in case, like let's say you absolutely couldn't, you've been disturbed, you've got to do something. Okay, well, instead of saying, oh, well, I won't do the hour because it's an hour, But if you've got half an hour, you can do the half an hour. You see, that's the idea. But try and do the hour. I mean, if you can, you get up early enough, you say, right, I'm going to do the hour, because it changes your day.
Yes, I've had that experience. I mean, anyone who's done yoga, if you do yoga, that day is transformed. Everything flows.
Yeah. So,
And it's the same with meditating. You meditate in the morning, your days are very different because you've experienced love, joy, and serenity.
Yeah. Because your experience, you change your world. Your experience of life is different because you change your inner state. So simple. Change your world by changing your mind. And you can do that in a meditation in 20 minutes. So why doesn't everyone do it? It's the most powerful thing. But we don't, because we think our world is external. The world is just as it is.
We think our world is more important, and this is a gift. This is the gift that we deny ourselves if we only realize how potent it was.
Yeah. And you realize how potent it is when you practice it, when you apply it. That's the only way you're going to realize it. No one can tell you. Morpheus says to Neo in the Matrix, he says, I can't tell you. You have to experience it for yourself. I can't tell you. I have to show you. You have to experience it. That's how we learn. Okay, so by your experience of, yes, I choose to let go, I'm willing to allow something else in, then you see that is true, that you do get confirmation of that. Then you start to believe it. So it requires some willingness. It requires a little faith. It's the courage almost to say, okay, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's another way. I'm not sure, but okay, I'm willing to give it a go. That's courage, isn't it? That's the start of any transformation. I'm willing to entertain another way. If someone doesn't have that, they're just like a closed shop, and like, no, it is what it is. This is reality, and there's no openness to change because they're actually terrified. They don't have the courage to go outside of their known world. Then there's no space for transformation. Then they won't do a course like this. It's too scary. It requires someone with some courage, some balls to say, okay, sure. I'm willing to go into the unknown and challenge myself, and it might be uncomfortable, but yeah, I'm up for it. Because often what leads us there is pain. It's like, okay, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of suffering. Like I've got to find another way. So rather, like, what have I got to lose? I'm like, life is really, really bad. So what have I got to lose? Let me give this a go. So often that's what's required for a lot of people. The pain must get acute enough for them to go, okay, so what have I got to lose then? It can't be worse than this. So I'll give it a go. But that's the way of the cross. You don't have to wait for that stage. You can do this. The way of mastery is like, okay, even the minor discomfort, a minor intrusion of discomfort, you got irritated on a drive. You wouldn't have maybe even noticed it before. Now you notice it. You go, okay, but that's a block to the awareness of love's presence. I notice it. I'm willing to let it go. I'm willing to work on those little things and just keep doing that. So now and life is interesting then. Like, okay, so I'm aware stuff arises. I'm aware. I let it go. I move. Okay, now I have a purpose in life. That's what I'm here to do. To keep doing these little corrections. And so miracles then become the way of life. And you live in the domain of the miraculous because you're making these choices all the time. And the more you do it, the more you go, wow, this really works. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling inspired. If challenges come up, I deal with them much more easily. Life's better, definitely. I'm handling it better. I'm actually quite happy. It's a happy dream. Wow. Okay. Well, keep going. Keep doing the same thing. Keep living in this forgiving or letting go way in the domain of the miraculous, and life's kind of inspiring. Okay. Well, let's see what happens. It's an illusion. Don't forget that, but it can be a happy one. It can be a happy dream. That's what he's saying. The rest of your life can be quite a happy one. You don't need to suffer. You can be happy and peaceful and loving and joyful and have those experiences and express those and extend those, and then finally, disappear. Just lay your body aside and you've had a happy dream. And that was your route to awakening. That's kind of the best we can do here in this world is, go for the happy dream and trust that.
That's what I experience. I can validate it 100%. So 10 out of 10, Donna. You expressed it very well. And I hope we all move forward fast in this.
Well, it seems like I think there's definitely an acceleration. You can see in the last few days, we're 4 days into it. You see people shifting and changing, and there's like a group energy, and people are, you kind of get into the field of transformation. If you're in the group, then
you share the miracles.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, you're in the field or you're out of it. I see someone just left the group because she's out of it. She's not in it. So you're in it or you're out of it, and you make a choice. Either way, it's like you're in it or you're not. And if you're not in it, then it feels challenging and difficult. So you just let the process take you. Just dive in and say, okay, I'm all in. That's why did you sign your love letter, your love and commitment letter?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so I'm all in. I'm all into this. You're saying to yourself, right, I'm all in for the next 6 weeks. Let's go for this. Let's do the hero's journey. Bring it on, spirit. I'm all in. Whatever experiences I need to have, whatever I need to deal with, bring it on. And that's courage, isn't it? When you sign that letter, you have courage. You're saying, okay, I'm setting the intention here to do this, to face my stuff. I'm all into this, and bring it on. Let's do this. Now, if everyone gets into that, supports each other, it's a very powerful energy. And it's even though not everyone's on the live calls, you feel it. It's like a transformational field around the whole group and the community. And even though we're thousands of miles apart, there's people in South Africa, UK, Tenerife, France. Doesn't matter. It's a field of energy. It transcends time and space.
And it really works.
It does, yeah. That's the value of doing it as a group. You on your own, you don't get that effect. It's much harder. This is the spirit supporting you, saying, okay, we'll help you with this group energy. And as other people shift, you shift, and it becomes an interlocking chain of miracles, as he says. So one person's shift helps you to shift, and we do group work together, and it's like, and the whole mind is being upgraded. A big part of the mind here is being upgraded into these higher levels, and that has a profound impact on the world. And that changes the world. Small group of people doing it can influence, have effects we can't even dream of.
And there are many groups like this around the world doing exactly this. So it's rippling out, it's multiplying as we speak.
Yeah, it's like a network of the like network. And when those join, I believe we'll create a new system. There'll be a new way of living because those will all join, and we will create another way of living on the external. So if you look at the integral model, it's just a projection of our collective consciousness, the external world. So the current system, the networks, the technology, governments, natural, all of it, the man-made world is a projection of the dominant values and the culture, which is by and large, unconscious, asleep. So the way to change it is these small groups. It starts with you, starts with each individual, but then the individuals start doing it collectively. So they form small groups, and if that starts to infect society in a good way, it starts spreading. It's like a positive viral chain, interlocking chain of miracles. Then the mind's changing. And the systems must change because the mind says, no, these systems don't work anymore. They're not functional. They're not integral. They don't align with the culture. So when things are out of alignment, you'll know this with life alignment. When there's no alignment, then there's a dissonance, and there must be a change. Something's got to change, and the external should be changed to meet the new internal reality. That's how it works. So you change your inner self, your inner subjective self, and then you change the external reality. If we all do that, more people shift, then the external reality is going to start changing. It is. And so it's not impossible because these are just projections. So of course it's possible if they're just projections of the mind. What we got to focus on is changing the mind, and then being authentic, actually living that. So you change the mind. You don't go, oh, well, I've changed my mind. I don't do anything different. I change my behavior. I change the way I speak. I change the way I act. You know, it's got to be integral. It's got to the behavior must follow the change of mind. That's living in the miraculous state, which then creates. Remember, the most powerful form of affirmation is action. So you don't really believe something until you act on it. So I believe it, and then you test it, and you've got to act on it. Okay, well, now you acted on, you actually did it. Then you're saying, I believe it. So that's what we're called on to do, is to live it in the external world, to be the expression of the Christ, be the loving kindness in action, be guided and show, show people this is how it works. There's another way.
Walk your talk.
Yeah, walk the talk. I mean, it's being in integrity. Otherwise, it's I believe this, but I don't act in that way. It's not right. And we know, I mean, then we call people who do that hypocrites, because you're saying something and you're doing something else. Well, there's no integrity there. No, integrity, interesting, same word. It's integral. It's not integral. It's split. There's not an alignment between the inner and the internal and the external. You get the more power. You get more power when you align. The internal aligns with the external. That's when you get more power in your life. You upgrade yourself. All right. So looks like Christine's frozen. Maybe you've got a power cut, Christine. It's quite possible, because it's 6 o'clock your time. I know they do it on the hour, don't they? So I think let's call it there. Let's see if Aurelie is still there. Aurelie, you still there? Right. Okay. So I think we'll leave it there. Good session, everyone. Thanks, Aurelie, Christine, for participating, and Elaine earlier. So next session starts in just under an hour. We're going to go into the text for this evening. It's section 3 of chapter 1, which is called Atonement, Atonement, as we say it, and Miracles. So join us then, 5 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. SA time, 7 p.m. Sorry, 6 p.m. Central European time, 7 p.m. SA time. Hope to see you then. Have a flowing evening in the meantime. Namaste.